Sasha's eyes opened reluctantly. The storm had passed, and it was just bright enough to see her surroundings in the early morning mist. Probably 3 a.m., she guessed. In August, the Alaskan sun had the annoying habit of setting so late and rising so early that there were only a couple of hours of true darkness. She and Caleb had been on the family vacation long enough that the novelty had worn off. "Caleb," she said aloud as the previous night's events came flooding back to her. The sudden noise was enough to rouse Caleb, who woke with a start. "Ow!" Caleb groaned as he settled back against the rock. "Can you make it to shore?" asked Sasha, indicating a narrow strip of sand where the remains of their boat had washed up. Caleb nodded and forced himself off the ledge. The water was even colder this time, and they were both shivering uncontrollably by the time they reached shore. Sasha trudged over to the boat and pulled their phones out of a waterproof compartment. Both of them still worked, but couldn't find a signal. Caleb's dad, Sasha's uncle, would be out looking for them, but that could take days with so many islands to search. The boat had landed on its side and the motor was flooded with water after being submerged. But the real problem was the hull. It had several cracks in the fiberglass where the boat had hit the rocks. It wasn't going anywhere without a lot of work. Sasha gathered some fallen branches from the tree line. They were soaking wet, but some gasoline from the boat helped get them burning. The smoke was thick, which Sasha hoped might attract anyone out looking for them. After 30 minutes by the fire, Sasha was warm and dry, but Caleb's skin was pale and he still shivered uncontrollably. "Hypothermia," observed Sasha. "We need to get you moving." The beach was flanked by steep cliffs, so they made their way up to the tree line, which rose more gradually in each direction. "What's that?" asked Caleb, pointing at one of the pines. Halfway up the trunk, a small security camera was attached to what looked like a tiny satellite dish. Even though it was a sign of civilization, something about the sudden feeling of being watched gave Sasha the creeps. They followed the tree line as it rose to the top of a steep cliff. From higher up, they could see the shoreline arc around the base of a small mountain just tall enough to be covered with a dusting of snow. Other than a few distant islands and a coastline at least 20 miles away, it was ocean as far as the eye could see. "Where are we?" Sasha asked. Caleb shrugged, not wanting to admit that he had been lost even before the storm hit. The two cousins had taken the boat out the previous afternoon in an attempt to stave off the boredom of the family trip. Neither of them had realized how disorienting the chain of islands could be, and the squall had come out of nowhere. "The storm must have pushed us to one of the outer islands," Caleb offered, trying to convince himself of his own innocence. They were able to follow the edge of the cliff a good ways further before it abruptly fell off into a ravine. The path forward looked treacherous, but a metallic glint caught Sasha's eye. She pushed aside some underbrush to reveal a large outdoor electrical box secured with a padlock. Caleb picked up a rock and tested its weight in his hand. "Are you sure that's a good idea?" Sasha asked. Caleb put the rock down. He had no idea whose equipment this was, but he wanted to be on their good side when he met them. "Maybe we can get a signal up the mountain," Sasha urged, but Caleb eyed the peak skeptically. It was a couple of miles through dense forest, and he didn't look like he was in any shape for a trek. "Just wait here," Sasha said, ducking under a branch. She had never hiked without a trail before, and it wasn't long before the thick underbrush forced her to turn around. As soon as she did, the sight of another security camera made her jump. She caught her breath and hurried back to Caleb. "It was too dense," Sasha said, "but I found another camera." "Hopefully someone is watching," Caleb mulled. Sasha nodded but was unable to shake the creepy feeling the cameras gave her. Why was someone in the middle of nowhere so concerned about security? Caleb must have picked up on her unease. "It's probably just for wildlife," he said. "This is all national park." Sasha hoped he was right. Sasha pulled out her phone. Even without a signal, the GPS worked, but the map required a connection to download details. The blue dot just showed that they were in the middle of the ocean off the southeast coast of Alaska. Not even the large populated islands appeared on the default map. By the time they got back to the beach, Caleb was stumbling and the fire had almost died out. Sasha tossed a few more branches on to get it going again. She had hoped that the smoke would attract help, but if they were on the outside of the passage, it would be the last place a search party would look. In the state Caleb was in, they couldn't wait that long. They followed the coast in the other direction for about a quarter mile when Caleb's phone dinged. One new network found. Station 57 had no password and no internet access, but it was close enough for them to pick up the Wi-Fi signal. "Go that way and call out the signal strength," Caleb told her. "We can triangulate the position." Sasha pulled up her Wi-Fi settings and watched as she walked back along the tree line. 15%. 12, she called out. "Walk 50 paces straight in and yell out again," Caleb shouted back. Sasha fought her way through the dense brush. 27%, she shouted. A brief moment of panic hit when she didn't hear a response. "Caleb? Follow my voice," he finally shouted back. A few minutes later, Sasha found him standing at the edge of a clearing with a small cluster of buildings at the center. "Hello?" Caleb called out as they searched the buildings. There were no signs of life, but what sounded like a distant voice was just audible over the sound of the wind. As they approached the largest building, they could finally make out what the voice was saying. Sasha, Caleb. They both froze in their tracks. "Who's there?" Sasha shouted. "My name is Wilson," the voice called back, but no one appeared. There was something odd about his voice, too measured and formal, not to mention the fact that he knew their names. "I'm inside," Wilson said. Sasha followed reluctantly as Caleb walked up to the building. She took a deep breath and steeled her courage as he pushed open the door.